Hey YouTube world, Harvest is Plenty. Thanks for stopping by to check out the video. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. So today is Friday. It's July 19th, and I have some breaking news for you guys. Many of you will be waking up to this news on your cell phone or at work, or if you're on travel, you're probably stranded in an airport somewhere. But there's a worldwide outage. Everything is down. We're talking flights have been disrupted. We're talking banks, media companies, 911 centers, hospitals, you name it. Everything has been affected. So that's what we're going to jump into today. So let's get to it.
Now to a Fox News alert. American Airlines lifting its ground stop just moments ago as widespread communication outages are continuing to impact major airlines, hospitals, and banks across the world. And more than 100 911 call centers in the U.S. are currently down.
David Spunt joins us live from Washington with the latest. David.
Well, good morning. That's good news. So American has lifted its ground stop that was affecting millions of passengers really across the world. All of the American flights and other flights that are in the air that are controlled by the FAA are allowed to continue to fly to their destination. The others are just ground stopped. But this outage is affecting millions of people from Sydney, Australia to Boston, Massachusetts to London, England. Rare to see such a global outage like this persisting for several hours. We have calls to the FBI to see what's being done here. But as we can tell, this is strictly software related, and it appears things are improving at some airports. This is related to a communication system that runs check-ins at airports, keeps flights on time, and banks running. It appears to be down. It's related to the company CrowdStrike. Now, this is a live map from the FAA showing completely closed airports, not ground stops, because the whole page would pretty much be filled up. But the closed airports include Boston's Logan Airport, LaGuardia Airport, Milwaukee, also Las Vegas. CrowdStrike is affecting Microsoft servers, which is affecting the functionality of apps and websites that we all use to check in at airports. The current FAA map, the red circles with the white X's, show that they are closed. Now, Harry Reid Airport in Las Vegas is one of the airports that is completely closed. Obviously, the goal to get things up and running as soon as possible, but that's up to the FAA, who's monitoring this, who's allowing those flights in the air to continue, but no new flights taking off unless they're American, because that ground stop was just lifted. Now, that third-party software outage is impacting other systems out wide. I want to read this statement from United Airlines. It says that this software outage is impacting computer systems, including at United. While we work to restore those systems, we're holding all aircraft at their departure airports. Flights already airborne are continuing to their destinations. Delta in Atlanta has a similar problem. And guys, you have to remember, Atlanta is a huge hub, especially during the summer in July.
So it seems like everything has been affected. It says that over 111 911 emergency call centers are down. Imagine trying to reach paramedics, police, fire department, and 911 centers are not open. They're not working because the communication systems are down. So it's important for you to become your own first responder or figure out some way to get help. Personally, I think this is just another test run. They're getting things ready for the big day when they're going to take everything down. I will leave this article below so you can read it at your leisure, or read it for yourself, or even share the article. But it goes on to say some things like New Zealand affected. It says long lines formed at airports in the U.S., Europe, and Asia, Australia. In South Africa and New Zealand, they reported outages at their payment systems, websites, and apps are down. It said some athletes and spectators descending on Paris ahead of the Olympics were delayed, but game organizers said disruptions were limited and didn't affect ticketing or the torch delay. What else it says here, and you guys could read it too. Cyber expert James Bohr said real harm would be caused by the outage because systems we've come to rely on at critical times are not going to be available. Hospitals, for example, will struggle to sort out appointments, and those who need care may not get it. He goes on to say there are going to be deaths because of this. It's inevitable, Bohr said. We've got so many systems tied up with this. Wow. What else? It says here, it says New Zealand down, Australia down. In the U.S., the FAA said Airlines United, American, Delta, and Allegiant had all been grounded. All right. It says airlines and railways in the UK were affected. It goes on to say in Germany, Berlin Brandenburg Airport halted flights for several hours due to difficulties in checking in passengers, while landings at Zurich Airport were suspended and flights in Hungary, Italy, and Turkey were disrupted. It said the Dutch carrier KLM said it had been forced to suspend most of its operations. Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport warned that the outage was having a major impact on flights to and from the busy European hub. So even Amsterdam is hit. In India, Hong Kong, and Thailand, many airlines were forced to manually check in passengers. An airline in Kenya was also reporting disruption. So every inch of the world has been affected by this one way or the other. Banking, hospitals, airline flights, computer systems, or whatever. And I know that CrowdStrike and all of them going to say just a update and things like that. But you have to understand that many of these companies are publicly traded companies, and their expertise is cybersecurity. And if your expertise is cybersecurity, but if you've been hacked, what does that say about your expertise? And what will that do to your market share of your company? So they're just going to say, oh, just an update. And, this update that we did, it was faulty or whatever. And this faulty update just took down the whole world. Interesting. Now, I will leave you guys with this. I was talking with a friend of mine, and we were discussing just events in the world, including the Trump shooting and just different things. And I told him, I said, man, a lot of people are worried about politics. Trump, Biden, what's going on with their particular races and their political parties. Many people are traveling for the summer, taking vacations, sending their kids to camps. Just, we get busy, we working, we doing a lot of stuff, we taking care of families. I said, but people are forgetting to prepare and to prep for a grid down situation. I was telling him, I said, man, eventually we're going to wake up, just like this morning when we woke up to this current outage. We're going to wake up and the electricity will be off. Nothing will be working. There will be no communication. I will not be able to get up and put up a video on YouTube because the internet is going to be down. Nobody will be able to text me to say, hey, man, do you have power? Because communications are going to be down. And whatever you have at your house or whatever you can source up real quick is what you're going to have for however long that power outage lasts. Now, what if the power remains out for 30 days? What are you going to do? Think about Houston, Texas, and what's going on, right? They're on day, I think, 8 or 9 or 10. But after day 6 or 7, people started pulling guns on a utility lineman, threatening them. If you don't get the power on, we're going to shoot you. This only after day 6 or 7. So what do you think people are going to do with a nationwide blackout in America on day 6, day 7, day 8, when there's no natural gas coming through the pipes, no running water, no anything? I would suggest that you guys get ready for that. Excuse me. Get ready for that, prepare for that, because eventually it's going to happen. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you. Take care. May God continue to bless you and your family.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Hoda Kotb.
Good morning. Good to see you. You are coming on the air right now with breaking news. A massive global technical outage tied to CrowdStrike, which is a major cybersecurity provider, has knocked critical computer infrastructure offline all across the country and, in fact, all around the world. It's an issue with a software update. It's impacting lots and lots of Microsoft computer systems worldwide, from businesses to emergency services, 911, traffic lights, transit systems, and it's having a major impact on airlines as well. American, Delta, United, they're all keeping their flights grounded. You're looking at some live scenes from the airport. It is chaos again, 6 a.m. on the East Coast, and this is the scene now. They're having difficulty even printing any kind of boarding passes. This, of course, is a developing situation. The full scope of this problem remains to be seen. And Brian, as we get started right here in Studio 1A, we should point out computers at NBC News right
Have
here
had
as
issues
we're
as
getting
well.
on the air. We're trying to do some workarounds here to get on the air, but this is something that's affecting people worldwide.
Yeah, and other newsrooms, our partners over at Sky News, having issues as well. I mean, this is impacting all different types of businesses. When you talk about airlines, you also talk about, just 911 services, in some cases reporting outages as well. And you're even hearing of anecdotes of banks in other countries experiencing that. We don't yet have reporting of banks in the United States being impacted by this, but this appears to be not just in the United States, worldwide and across different types of industries.
This definitely speaks to what I feel like is the fragility of the situation. Right. It's like this is not a cyber attack. This is a computer kind of snafu that happened.
Yeah, and just to kind of walk you through exactly what's going on here. So this appears to be an issue between CrowdStrike and Microsoft. So CrowdStrike, for those that aren't familiar, is a cybersecurity firm that basically provides businesses with a way to foolproof their systems from being hacked. Now, apparently what happened was that CrowdStrike was working on some sort of update. We just heard from the CEO in the last few minutes describing this as not a security incident or cyber attacks. I don't repeat that again. It doesn't appear to be a cyber attack at issue here. But the reason why CrowdStrike is so instrumental to not just businesses here in the United States, but around the world, is because any sort of business that hires CrowdStrike to basically foolproof their systems, well, they're going to be incorporating that into their computers. So if they get that, it's being plugged into Microsoft computers. If there's an issue with CrowdStrike, it takes down all of those Microsoft computers that are related to that. The company's saying Mac and Linux computers are not impacted, but again, this is very widespread.
That's interesting because I think what happened was a lot of people, this was happening in Australia, Europe, while we were all sleeping. We woke up and we were like, what's going on? But what people are finding is they're getting on their computers or at the bank or at the airline and they're seeing just a blue screen. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, well, the term for this is called the blue screen of death. And I don't know if we have examples that we can show on the screen right now, but we've been seeing it even in our newsrooms this morning. So it's basically this blue screen that has this prompt that says, you know, you're having issues and they're basically trying to figure out a workaround. But that essentially bricks your computer. You are unable to log in. Now, that's scary for any person that's just trying to log into their personal computer, although it's not clear if your personal computer has CrowdStrike. If it doesn't have that plugin or have that cybersecurity layer, you likely won't be affected because of the nature of what we understand this issue to be. But for all these enterprise companies, which is translation for corporate customers that use this protection, well, that's a major issue. If you can't log in, you can't print out the boarding passes to get people on their planes. You can't, as a bank teller, even get fired up to help open up someone's deposit account. This is a major issue. CrowdStrike says that they have an issue. They identified the issue, they isolated it, and there's a fix that has been deployed. How long that fix takes to basically patch over all this, we don't know, as it seems like anecdotes of these issues and outages are still out there.
And when you're thinking about it, like 911, all of these things, hospitals, like time of the essence when it comes to this. But you did bring up the airlines, and a lot of folks, I have a good friend who's on the way to the airport who's texting me saying, what's going on with all these flights? This is the scene at the airport, and we have NBC's Antonia Hilton. She joins us now. I think she is at Newark Airport. Antonia, what's the scene there?
Good morning. Well, passengers are arriving here to Newark to chaos, long lines, and intense frustrations. The kiosks are down, the computers are down, the boards where travelers typically go to find out what's going on with their delays and their cancellations, they're not updating properly. They're showing just a couple cancellations and delays, and passengers tell me that it's not reflective of what the staff tell them is actually happening. So we have tons of people who have been lining up, in some cases for hours, trying to get more information about their flights. And at times they've even gotten into fights with the staff here because they say this airline behind me here, Spirit, hasn't done enough to keep customers in the loop. They say they haven't received text messages, no updates through the app, that Spirit hasn't even yet posted a statement on their social media accounts like Twitter, the usual platforms that passengers would turn to in a moment like this. And so the emotions have, in some cases, really spilled over here. And some families have essentially just ditched the line. They're now moving aside, in some cases leaving the airport, convinced they might not get to leave on their flights at all today. What we know nationally right now, according to FlightAware, is that we have more than 500 cancellations and over 700 delays. If things don't start looking up soon, the guess from most of the people here at Newark, at least today, is that that could get worse, guys.
All right, Antonia, thank you. I think if you have your eye on what's going on in Europe, you kind of see what's going to be coming here as the sun rises.
Yeah.
We saw the chaos in airports there. We're seeing it here. We see the situation with banks in Europe, and we're starting to figure out what that will look like here in this country as people wake up.
Yeah, and again, I think it depends on how quickly CrowdStrike can address this issue, which, as their statement says, they're trying to deploy this fix. How quickly they can do that, we don't know. One thing I want to emphasize is that we've seen 911 issues in New Hampshire. They've been reporting that. Whether or not it's tied to this remains to be seen. But for those that are unable to access 911, do not try to call 911 to test it. Try to figure out other avenues, maybe try a different carrier, different type of phone to access them if you are in an emergency. Because, yes, we're talking about people trying to get to flights, but there are many serious emergency issues that as well that could be impacted by this. Just make sure that you're trying to try other avenues.
And quickly, again, they're saying this is a technical issue and not any kind of cyber attack.
This is not a security incident or cyber attack, that according to George Kurtz, the CEO of CrowdStrike on X.
All right, let's see what happens. This day is going to unfold. Again, thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate it. This concludes our NBC News special report. We'll have a lot more on our streaming network, NBC News Now and at NBCnews.com. And, of course, throughout the morning on Today. I'm Hoda Kotb. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in a bit.